It has happened before. My understanding is the first report on this, in fact, was in 1865. In 2011, there was a very similar case, in fact, in Rome, and there have been several cases reported where one of the children hasn't actually made it. It's died at some stage during the process, perhaps not related to that. But this concept of this delayed or different conception within the same pregnancy has happened. It's just very, very rare. But
So tell
that's
us
it.
exactly what happened in this particular case then.
Well, in this particular case, and this is natural conception, the couple had twins growing naturally, went for an ultrasound scan. There was a bit of a surprise because there seemed to be something else growing that wasn't at the same stage as the twins. And what they transpired was there was another fetus growing there that was actually about 2 weeks delayed compared to the twins that were growing. And they can then define this very accurately because you measure the back of the neck. You know exactly when conception really has occurred. And had to tell the couple, no, you're not having twins, you're actually having triplets, but one of them was fertilized probably 2 weeks after your twins.
So the woman in question had fallen pregnant the first time with one embryo that had split into identical twins, and then a couple of weeks later it happened again.
Well, it may be identical twins, or it could have been two eggs that, again, that happens simultaneously when you have non-identical twins, and it could have been non-identical twins. There's probably different ways this could have happened, but most likely it's called the loop system. Is basically where the control mechanisms to stop ovulation while you're pregnant haven't worked. 2 weeks later, you've released an egg. Now, either you've had sex or either the sperm hanging around, but it's enabled fertilization. And that's the second next thing that shouldn't have happened, because once you've got a fertilized egg, normally fertilization shouldn't happen again. And then the third thing that shouldn't happen is that the lining of the womb has allowed this embryo to implant 2 weeks after it's already got two fetuses growing in it. And normally the lining of the womb becomes refractory and shouldn't allow implantation. All those systems broke down and allowed this embryo to quite happily trundle along, develop inside the womb and start growing.
Is there a sense that because of the gap of 2 weeks that there's competition between the fetuses?
Well, you see, that's a very good question. But when you produce an embryo and it's developing as, 4 cells and then whatever, 12 cells, and then it starts to implant in the womb when it's about 100 cells, what's happening at that stage is there's two different cell types growing. A small group of cells that will hopefully become the baby proper. But there's another group of cells that become the placenta. So in fact, the early growing embryo contains its own placenta. And as long as that placenta then can implant and develop with the maternal blood system adequately enough so you get a sufficient placenta, that baby should be uninhibited and grow well. Yes, both placentas, or in this case, three placentas, may be competing for the mother's nutrition, but as long as they are sufficient placentas, because we have disorders called placental insufficiency, as long as we get placental sufficiency, then that baby should grow quite happily.